Kiss, that iconic 70s rock band. Its name conjures up a lot of things from my childhood. I had a friend that I spent the night with a lot named Tony. I won't mention his last name, but he was a huge Kiss fan. And this is probably, I don't know, 77, 78. I was 9, 10 years old, branching out my musical taste. And I do recall listening to a lot of Kiss at that time, not letting my parents know, of course, because they would have had a cow, I guess, back then. But my friend Tony really introduced me to this band, and I've really been a fan off and on for the past 40 plus years. But one question that always comes up is, what did KISS really stand for? Did it really stand for Knights in Satan's Service? We'll get into it. Hey, it's Michael Douglas. Welcome back to Dr. Pundit, where we talk about music, not medicine. And on this edition of the show, we're debuting the feature True or False. That's right. One aspect about a musical group, song, album, whatever, as long as there's a musical connection. And is that aspect really true or false? And in this case, KISS. Did it really mean Knights in Satan's Service, Kids in Satan's Service, stuff like that? I mean, I remember that was a rationale for, I think, a lot of parents censoring their music, especially back then in the late 70s when they were hitting their peak, against this group. And it seems so quaint today, but I thought it was a good time to talk about it. So KISS. You know, it's an American rock band formed in 1973, made up of Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, who came out with their own albums as solo artists, I guess, but never really left the band. They were always an integral part of the band. And even if you didn't know any of their music, their faces and face paint would make them instantly recognizable today to any even casual music listener. The group rose to fame, of course, as the 70s went on, with shocking stage performances, smoking guitars, pyrotechnics, levitating drums, you name it. Now, though the band has evolved over time, the four core members, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, Gene Simmons, the tongue guy, and Paul Stanley, they all had nicknames. And for Paul Stanley, it was known as Starchild. That's right, Starchild. Simmons is known as the Demon. Frehley was known as Spaceman or Space Ace, something like that. And Peter Criss was Catman. The band has toured up until the early 2020s, and I believe their last tour was in 2022. COVID sidelined the group to some extent as well. Now, in total, KISS has sold more than 100 million albums worldwide. They have 30 gold albums. They have 14 platinum albums, 3 of which have been certified multi-platinum. And, you know, the band is just a legend. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 10 years ago in 2014. Now, the origins of the band lead up to that. What does KISS stand for? Now, the origins of KISS have roots in the band Wicked Lester, okay? And that group, which was founded in New York City, was led by Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons. And the group only recorded one album and played just a handful of live shows. And they basically dropped that moniker in 1972 to begin a new group. Okay, you think you know where this is going. And after that dissolution of the band Wicked Lester, Simmons and Stanley basically saw an ad in Rolling Stone, as the legend goes, from Peter Criss, a drummer in the Big Apple, who was looking for bandmates to play along with him. And the two met Peter Criss in a nightclub, and he played drums there, very good drummer. After hearing him sing, they knew he was their guy. And in 1973, the trio added guitarist Ace Frehley, and, you know, history was written from that moment on. So now, according to legend, it was Paul Stanley who came up with the band name KISS. And it occurred to him one day when a couple of other band members were driving around New York City. And they were talking, and you know, Criss said he had been in a band called Lips, L-I-P-S. So the story goes. And somebody else said, well, what about Kiss? You know, lips, kiss. And not long after, Ace Frehley created the now well-known logo, making the ending that double S kind of thing, resembling lightning rods, KISS, K-I-S-S, of course, known the world over now, but also was the bane of a lot of parents' thoughts to know that their kids are probably listening to this when I was coming of age at that time in the late 70s, early 80s. So Ace Frehley wrote the logo over a poster that had the name Wicked Lester on it. And this was outside of a club they were beginning to play that night. And later, Stanley wrote the logo out with a Sharpie or a marker of some kind and accidentally drew the two S's non-parallel to having done the image shorthand by eye. And it pretty much kind of stuck. That's how those S's got that shape. Now, according to some, the letters in the KISS logo look similar to the Nazi SS designation or insignia, which of course has implications. Now, Simmons and Stanley, who are both Jewish, denied any association or any intentional likeness with this German kind of SS designation / insignia. Though ever since 1979, most of the band's album covers in Germany have used a different logo. So that, you know, that's a story that has been confirmed as well. Now, the band's name has often been thought of as being something nefarious, hence the acronym I was getting to at the start of the show, Knights in Satan's Service, Kids in Satan's Service, KISS. The band members, of course, have denied all of this. And, you know, I remember when, again, I won't use his last name, but I was a good friend with this guy, Tony, when I was in junior high, elementary school, late elementary school. And he was the biggest KISS fan. I mean, he had all of their individual posters on his wall, along with, of course, the group posters. And he was always so proud of the fact that, yes, he knew what KISS stood for, Knights in Satan's Service. Well, it kind of stuck with me for a long time until, of course, you know, those stories have always been debunked for decades. So, yes, it is false. KISS has rather innocuous beginnings and doesn't stand for anything like that. And while the band is pretty much at the end of its road today, their image, their music, their antics will always be a part of rock history, with the face paint, the pyrotechnics, the indelible name KISS and its likeness. They're timeless, and I'll always listen to them. KISS, the subject of this edition of Dr. Pundit's True or False. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you like what you see here on the channel, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe. I'm Michael Douglas, and as the late great Barry White always used to say, let the music play, and I'll see you on the next show.